Florida State is number 4 in the college football playoff rankings. They're number 4 in the 2024 recruiting class rankings per On3. Michael, life is good.
Life is very good. So who wants to hear my thoughts on the college football playoff before we start, or I can do it at the
Oh, we've
end?
been waiting. I saw your
Okay.
tweet, and I've been excied. I want to hear your take. Go ahead. We're going to
Okay,
start
so
the show
here's
off right.
the thing. So nobody really has talked about this, but um, I'll start off saying college playoff. Y'all need to do better.
Mm.
First of all, I had no problem with number one. Like that's fine. They got 2 wins, but I think it's an absolute embarrassment that FSU's number two. And I'll tell you why. First of all, FSU only has the only ranked team that's beat a ranked team in there out of those two. So it's like if you're gonna bet, and they said the reason for Ohio State was there was because you had those two ranked teams. So it's like the LSU game didn't even matter, and it's like they totally forget about it. So I think they totally screwed it up. I think it was a layup. I think it was an easy choice for a college playoff, and I have no problem if Georgia and Michigan later beat some ranked teams, but you have to justify it when you have ranked teams on there. So I think they screwed it up. I think they messed that up, and FSU should be number two. And I'm not saying that because it's FSU. I'm saying because they beat a ranked team, and it just feels like the reasoning was not consistent of what they talked about. So I think all I got to say is do better, college playoff. That's bad. That's a terrible job. If you're going to have your criteria as beating ranked teams, then have the criteria for FSU. It just feels like why play those games if you're not going to get rewarded for them when you win? And not only they win, they won decisively over LSU, and that's a team that's battling to go to SEC championship. So, got to do better, guys. You got to be more consistent. So, if the college playoff guys are listening, that's my thoughts. I think FSU should be number two if you're doing it currently or what it is. I think it's a total disgrace that they screwed that up, but I got it out. Now I feel better, so we can carry on recruiting.
I'm glad you could get that off your chest. I know,
I'm
you can
telling you,
tell it's been weighing on you a little
it's
bit.
ridiculous.
I did want to start off by talking about Ethan Pritchard, 2025 commit, 4-star linebacker, committed in late October. It seemed like in the midst of a game day weekend, maybe a Sunday after a game day. So we were kind of busy. We didn't get to give a whole lot of attention to him. I know you wrote some articles as well as Matt Lassaire, a
Right.
lot of talk on the premium recruiting boards. But for those who might have missed that in the midst of all the chaos going on a Saturday game day, what can you tell us about Ethan Pritchard?
Yeah, great. He's very similar. He does a lot of similar things to what the way FSU uses Kalen DeLoach. He does a lot of outside linebacker stuff. Very quick to the ball, very good lateral movement, goes side to side very well. It was kind of a surprise when he told me he committed because it was kind of like he came in there and certainly the media was out there and we were just interviewing guys like usual. And so he sits there and he's going on and then he's like we're different media guys are asking him like what kind of where FSU stand. He's like they stand pretty good since I just committed. And that's kind of how the commitment broke, and then obviously we broke it on the boards, and I think Matt or somebody got it on the boards, and then we had a story later. But Ethan was a guy that I felt like it was trending in a good direction. He's in the 2025 class, but it's always good to get off to a good start in linebackers. So that's a place where they haven't always got the top tier guys, and so getting a 4-star linebacker right away, I think it was a big deal for them to solidify that early, and it tells you kind of what's building with this team that where FSU's recruiting is going and just really just how they're killing it as far as the perception of now FSU, how that's even before the season. I think it's changed even more. Just on what they've done because it's now a follow up to that 10-win season, and now I think kids are seeing like wasn't a fluke. This is team just like they're growing in a different level, and we want to be a part of it. And I think kids just see one the way the kids are getting developed, the kids are playing, and also just what the culture is like around FSU when you're there with around the players. It's a lot different. So that's why I say anytime there's a kid on campus, I don't care where FSU sits, it's going to be a dramatic jump up for FSU because of what changes when these kids visit. We've seen it numerous times with a lot of kids, and I think Ethan was a really good pickup for that 2025 class. So I think there wasn't a lot in there yet, and so I don't think he's going to be the only one. I think there's going to be several coming out. I think you could see some more, pop around that after that Miami game. So I think you're going to start seeing that just keep rising up as far as adding to that class. But Ethan was a really good start for them.
Going to the 2024 class, I know a guy who a lot of people are high on Florida State getting is Jamari Howard. 2024 guy, kind of rounding out that class. He's a 4-star corner. Do you feel good about that? And are there any developments? Could we see a commitment maybe coming soon from Jamari?
Yeah, he's already set, I think, a commitment date for November 10th, if I'm not mistaken, which is a day before, I think, the Miami game. I feel really good about where FSU sits. I've already put in an RPM pick for FSU. I feel like the connection with not only Norvell, but also Sertain, and just I started to feel kind of the really big shift of momentum when he decided not to go to a Florida game and he stayed at
Mm.
FSU for a game, but also stayed there for an extra day. Got around guys that he knows that are from South Florida that are already on the team. Guys like Hakeem Williams and people like that. So I think it really just solidified kind of their position, and then really him just seeing what they do with the product and how Sertain's already developed guys and the way they're used in this defense. I think gets him pretty excited. So I think there should be some good news coming in November for FSU with Jamari. I feel pretty good about where they stand. That's kind of one of the few final pieces. I think they would add another one, maybe a safety or another DB. But I think after Howard they would like to add one more. But I think it's getting close to finalizing kind of what you want for that DB class.
Looking at a board question. This was a board post, actually. This was not a board question,
Okay.
but I thought it was interesting. So I want to get your thoughts on this. The post was from Frosty Frog. I just wanted to read that username on the show.
Okay.
But it was about if Florida implodes down the stretch. So I'm going to add Miami into that mix too. Are there any guys maybe that FSU can pull from Florida or Miami if, say, Miami loses 2 of the next 4 or Florida loses the rest of their games, period?
Yeah, I would start with the main one with Miami would be defensive tackle Artavius Jones. He's visited FSU for the Duke game, and I think the Virginia Tech game as well. Um, I don't think I don't feel like he'll be here for this one. That's because it makes it kind of an uncomfortable situation where you're visiting while you're the team that you're committed to. You're hosting them, and so I think they would rather just have him visit like games that whether it's not Miami there, but I've heard more intel that leads me to believe FSU's trending even better. That in from the these are mainly high school sources that I've talked to that feel good about kind of where FSU's trending. With Artavius Jones, I think that would be the name one. I know a lot of people bring up JoJo Trader and then also Zaquan Patterson. Zaquan, it could be a guy to keep an eye on. Maybe he pops in for that Miami game. I think JoJo's kind of just the reason he picked Miami, I think a big part of it was he wanted to stay closer to home. It was important to him to be around his family that close. So I don't think that one's going to really shift that much. Certainly, Jeremiah Smith, 5-star plus, will be there at that game. So that's a big deal for FSU. They'll get a chance to really solidify their position in there, really make a push again for Jeremiah. I think that's going to be a multi-day visit. But and then on the Florida side, I don't know anybody specifically. I would say LJ McCray would be a guy that maybe you can get him on campus for a game or something, and then maybe they can keep working it. Um, I do not think he was at the Florida Georgia game, which was kind of interesting to me since he was likely to probably pop in there. But I do know that's a guy they're still working on. They're going to go until whenever he signs, and his teammate Zay Mincy is going to be there for the Miami game. So maybe if something trends and Zay gets a spark like what he said he's looking for on that FSU visit, then maybe that might help with LJ and we don't know. Maybe LJ pops up right now. They've told me a few guys that they're keeping kind of secret that they won't tell me, but there's a few guys that I think are going to be added to the list that I don't have on my original list right now. So um, I think we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, those are kind of the main ones I would say from both of those teams.
I was taking a look at your visitor list for the Miami game. You said you were a little bored, so you went ahead and started looking into the Miami game and some visitors that are going to be coming. So who are maybe some that kind of took you by surprise that'll be on campus next weekend?
Let me look at it because
I don't want to give it all away. I didn't want to put it on the
I'm
screen.
not gonna
So
give it all away. I'm just kind of gonna look it over real quick while I talk to you guys since we're all just sitting here, going over all the different things. But I wouldn't say there was any guy that really like shocked me. But I would say I'm mildly surprised that four-star running back Alvin Henderson is coming back 2025. He's a guy that I've been I've been high on from the start. I don't think there's besides him. I don't think there was like a shocker or surprise, I guess, for me when I looked, at all these visitors and who's going to be there. But I would say, let's see, just looking at it, um, Jamie French, I kind of expected there, and then the rest I think are pretty much expected, guys. I was a little surprised to see wide receiver Dalen McCutcheon there. I mean, he kind of talked to be about possibly going, but then he was kind of like he wasn't sure. But I guess if I was picking the biggest surprise, it would be the guy I just added, a five-star DV, DJ Pickett, 2025 class. He's a guy that hasn't visited FSU in a while, but he visited in the spring, so that's kind of interesting that he's coming, but it kind of speaks to kind of what they're doing overall in on the product on the field. So I think there'll be a few surprises though in there. There people see him that man that guy hasn't visited in a while, but we'll see how it materializes. But those are a few that I kind of jump out to me.
couple questions in the chat. We'll get to some questions on the boards as well. Tony says, "Is that Jeremiah Smith's official visit? You're expecting him to be on campus for several days, Michael,
Yeah,
right?"
yeah, that's an unofficial visit, Tony. His official visit will be later in probably November, or right before the final cutoff. As far as when they early signed, but I think he that will be his unofficial visit, and then he will take an official later in November to FSU. So that's going to be an unofficial visit for Jeremiah.
Have you heard anything, any new developments? I know Jeremiah's taken a lot of visits. Obviously, you can do that. He seems to like Florida State, though. He's visited Tallahassee several times, Michael.
Yeah, I don't think a ton has changed except for just his consistency of how he feels about this FSU offense, how he likes it. He called Mike Norvell probably the best coach in college football, which I thought
Mhm.
was raised my eyebrows just because, and he doubled down on that when I actually went to Chaminade's game one time, and so I think that's interesting. It tells you kind of his feelings about what the coaching staff is, so it isn't like a feel it out process. So he definitely likes him a lot, but he also definitely likes Ohio State. Certainly the situation with Brian Hartline, if he leaves or if he doesn't leave, he gets a head coaching job. That will, I think, dramatically affect kind of my feelings on this recruitment. I think it shifts big for me towards FSU, but I don't think there's a ton of like movement when it comes to kind of what he's recruiting. I think it's kind of similar to what I've had it before. He's visiting Florida, I think, this weekend. Then he's going to be at Florida State next weekend, and then probably take some official visits, but I don't think there's anything dramatically changed. I still think it won't be the easiest pull because he's been committed to Ohio State for a while, but there's something about FSU that extremely intrigues him. Whether it's the when he's around the players, what it's the what he sees out of the wide receiver room, the development. He certainly loves what they're doing with Keon Coleman. He calls Keon the best receiver in the country. So I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that are certainly positives. It won't be an easy flip, but I think they're trending in a good direction as far as I guess how they feel about it going into these visits. But still certainly a good portion of work to do, but certainly very much in the picture. And like I said, if he flipped, I think it would be to FSU. I think Florida's in there. I think Miami and a few other schools are in there, but I think the main ones are Florida and Florida State, and I think Florida State would be the team if I was picking. If he flipped, I think it would be to FSU.
So what you're saying is we need to start putting Brian Hartline out there. If you're an AD listening, go ahead and hire Brian. That'd be a great fit for your
That would
program.
help. That would help a lot. That would help a
Let's
lot.
let's go to some viewer questions. We've
Okay.
got Keith from Spring Hill. He says, "Goal knows, Michael. How is O line recruiting looking? Next year could be the first time we see what Adkins high level recruits look like."
Yeah, I mean, I think their development's been tremendous under Alex. I mean, it's improved every year when you watch kind of the way they've been able, they can run the ball, the way they can get their guys, even even when they don't run the ball, they run like an extension of the run, which is screens, and kind of everyone saw that screen last week with Trey Benson. I mean, that's just the way they get their offense and how versatile they are with their offensive line is a big deal. I think the class is really good. I think it's nearly complete. I think the only probably guy left is Jason Sandamela. He's a guy that I put on my 7 targets to watch for 2025. FSU still very heavily involved there. I've heard some a little bit of good stuff when it comes to kind of his interest level picking up. Before it was kind of like, hey, I'm very comfortable with USC. I'm kind of locked in and all that stuff. And then now I've heard through a couple people close to him that FSU is a place that now he's kind of itching to take a look at and see and just see what they're about. So he's another one that I'm kind of keeping an eye on to see if he pops up for that FSU Miami game, because I mean, I think people forget so far back that before he committed to USC, FSU was the leader. He visited FSU like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
He's really tight with Coach Atkins, and we know they want centers bad. So, and he's a pure center. He was the guy
Mm.
in the spring that I heard the most. That if there was a definite take that they want badly, it was Jason. So Jason was the one they wanted the most, and he kind of fits everything they want. So there's a hard push there, and certainly he's a guy that I still would keep very much in the picture. FSU, they're starting to get a little bit of momentum there, but certainly there's still work to do. You got to get him on campus, and he has not used his official visit yet up to FSU. So that's kind of, if he does visit FSU, I think it would be for an official visit. So he's a name that I don't mention 7 to watch just for nothing. There's guys, if I mention them, there's details to them of why I'm mentioning him. So he's definitely a guy that I feel a very real possibility that FSU is still very much in the picture.
Maybe things change a little bit when Lincoln Riley goes to the NFL. What do you say, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean that's for other teams to figure out, but I think it's just you watch USC. There's been some struggles when you watch that team. I mean, they pulled it out last week in the final seconds against Stanford, or not Stanford, but California. I think 50-49. So there's some problems going on there that you see. Just the body language I see, and just some had some key losses that I think might be making open his eyes. And you're seeing what FSU's doing. I think it's really certainly had a strong effect on Jason. He's always liked FSU, so this is a situation where it's a dramatic shift that,
Right.
oh, you got to show him what I mean. He knows what FSU is, and he knows the need that they have for a center prospect. I said that's the number one thing that I think for this class they want to get some centers, and I think a guy like Ty Hilton can play there, and certainly Jonathan Daniels can play there if they need to. But I think they want centers in this class, and Jason was the number one guy they wanted at center. So I think that's definitely a guy that they're pushing extremely hard for.
Tom is wondering about centers. Is there anyone there looking at that you would consider a true center? Well, you mentioned Jason. Is there
Yeah,
anyone else maybe?
Jason would be the main, like for sure, true center. If you talk about that true center position, that's what he plays. It does it all the time. As far as guys on the team, I'm not sure, but guys in the class, I would say Ty Hilton or Jason if you're able to pour him. There's other guys that can play it, but as far as a true center, Jason would be your guy, and so I think he would be the perfect scenario, and certainly finish off what is already an extremely good class. You have Jaden Dodd, you have Jonathan Daniels, you have Ty Hilton, who I've already covered, Manisa ITT from California that they like a lot at tackle. So it's a great class already, and Jason would just put an exclamation point on it if they could pull that off.
T. Will has a question about Miami visitors. Will Trader and Patterson be at the Miami game? He asks.
Yeah, I mentioned Patterson. I'd be surprised if Trader's there, and if he is there, he's probably just there as a fan to watch his future school. As I said, he likes FSU a lot, but there's certain things I can't talk about that I think a reason why he would want to stay closer to home. But I think Patterson, he's a guy that really just depends on the push, because I just didn't get the sense, like when I talked to him when he committed that day in person, I got the feeling like FSU pushed some, but it wasn't like a full throttle 100% we got to have you type of push. He talked about the relationship that he wanted to build with um, you know the DB coach and Pat, and so I think really it just depends on the push. I think for Patterson, I think if there is a push for Patterson, I could see him taking a visit back to FSU, but as of right now, neither one are on my radar as far as hey they're coming. But I'll certainly keep an eye on to see if that changes.
Sorry, guys, got a little ahead of myself there. You guys know what's coming next. Any news on Coy Parrish after his offer? Hopefully, I pronounced that right. Grill Masker asks. I put that up on the screen a second ago. I got a little premature there, but there
The
you see
reason I know,
Coy,
the only reason I know you got it
Minnesota.
right is because Coy told me that when I
Nice.
called him and talked to him and interviewed him. So that is correct. I don't think there's anything like set in stone, but I think he's a guy that I do think will officially visit FSU. I think it's really just picking out the right game. Could be the Miami game. I'm going to check back with him next week. I'm not really. We've already talked, so I'll check again with him and see if there's something set up. But I do know he wants to visit Southern Cal and FSU for official visits. I do think that will happen. I think he wants to check out and see what they are. He certainly watched FSU, so this isn't the kid that is in Midwest country that didn't like study and see. And he said he watched the LSU game, so he's very familiar with what FSU did. But certainly they watched this film. They wanted to extend the offer. They wanted to kind of put the ball in his court to see how interested he is and to kind of leave it up to him. But they're going to keep checking on him. But if you want to officially visit, hey, FSU saying, hey, we're interested. So I think that's a guy that, they like kind of a slash, linebacker slash safety more so, probably safety, probably a hybrid type of linebacker. So I think he's a guy that they certainly want to see more of. And we'll see if that official visit lines up. I don't think there's anything technically new with him. I think it's kind of just a wait and see of him setting up visits.
If he's anything like me, he probably wants to come to that warm weather, man. It's getting a little cold up north up here, Michael. I know we're in the season, but we've got one question. Well, actually, two questions here.
Hmm.
Flipping the UF defensive tackle. Not sure who exactly Harold's talking about here, but he's also asking about the safety from Clemson, Jones. Have you done any intel in the transfer portal, or are we still a couple weeks away from that?
Well, I think that won't start until like really when you get into prep mode for like hopefully for FSU preparing for an ACC championship game. But I think the guy he's talking about UF is Nasir Johnson. He's visiting Colorado this weekend. He's a Florida commit. I think Georgia is the team that I hear the most about possibly flipping him. I think the best flip candidate for FSU is Artavius Jones. That's the one I've heard the most buzz about. He was originally going to visit for the FSU Duke game. Something came up with travel, it didn't happen. But I always thought like that was going to be a tougher pool. So if he was going to flip somewhere, I would say probably Georgia. But until he's on campus, I can't really. It's not really. It's kind of pointless for me to go into detail about kind of with Nasir of the chances until they can get him on campus. Like I said, this weekend it's going to Colorado. He has told me he's coming for the Miami game, but he told me that for the Duke game too. So we'll see if he follows through with that. Then there could be some movement there. I do think he's a soft commitment to Florida. And if I was picking, I think if he was picking today, I think there would be a flip to probably Georgia, my opinion. But right now, I'd say he's definitely a soft commit, but so there's a chance. So it's not like you're battling to try to, have to change his mind heavily. I mean, he's certainly, thinking about it, and certainly not saying that he won't end up at Florida. I'm just saying there's some movement there, but got to see him get on campus first, and then the safety. I think Clemson. You think he's talking about Ricardo Jones? He was originally a major FSU target safety. He's out of I want to say Georgia, state of Georgia. But FSU was really high on him. So was Auburn throughout the process. That's a good point, Harold. I will check on that one. I haven't checked on Ricardo in a while. But I'll check and see if there's any movement there. I have not heard anything that leads me to believe, hey, FSU's in the picture and they're trending. But I will definitely check on him and probably drop a note on the board, Harold, and see kind of what I find out. But I'll kind of do I'll do my due diligence, see what I can find out. But that's kind of where they stand for both of those guys.
Michael Davis, Michael, great name. Kai Bates, what's your thoughts on him? Michael likes him more than Wardell Mack. Michael, do you like him better than Wardell Mack too? See what I did there?
They're two different. I mean, for me, it's two different players. With what they do. I mean, Wardell, I think's more of a boundary corner for sure. I think Kai Bates, you can put him in nickel and also some boundary situation. I like both of them. I like Wardell a little bit more, but it's close. But Kai Bates went to Texas A&M last weekend. He's one of those, and I'm kind of keeping an eye on for this next weekend coming up. I think you could possibly see him on campus at FSU. I think he's a guy that David Johnson has a really good relationship with. He recruits that area, and he's he likes what their DBs are doing with Pat over there at FSU, and so I think certainly FSU is a team that's up there with Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Florida State's been the teams I've heard him mention. I heard the Vols mentioned a little more, but he's a guy that I'm keeping track of. Like I said, another guy on my 7 to watch that I think they heavily covet. I think they like him a lot. Same thing with Wardell. I think they like him a lot. Wardell's already confirmed that he will be at the FSU Miami game, and so he's committed to Florida. But I tend to feel like that thing's trending towards a softer commitment than a lot of people think. I think Texas is very involved. Certainly, Florida's involved, and then FSU, I think, is heavily involved. They've got a lot of players from the boot already on their team from the state of Louisiana. So I think FSU wants to make their move that weekend for the Miami weekend. But I think if either one, you know, I don't think FSU would be like, okay, we're not going to take this guy.
Right.
If what one of them or both of them want to come on, they might even take both of them if that happened to that stretch because they covet both of them around the same level. So I think certainly you would take either one of them. But we'll see how it goes for the FSU Miami weekend. But yeah, that's a guy they definitely I think stay in communication with Kai.
Secondary's getting scary, Michael. That's going to be a sight to behold if those guys fall in place for FSU. Let's go to the board and get some questions from the board now.
Okay.
We've got several questions from our premium recruiting board. The premium recruiting board available to Warchant subscribers. You can sign up for $1 still. I think that deal's still going on. Just go to warchant.com, top right corner. If you're not a member, sign up. You get 2 months of access for just $1. Garnet Guy asks, Mike, with so few spots available in this year's class, how
hmm
would you rank the positions by importance?
I mean, defensive tackle for me is the most important. I think you need to have, you got one already, you got one in the class. They're still after Denos White, who I like a lot, 3-star defense tackle. So to officially visit for the Miami game. I like him a lot. I like Artavius the best. The guy's just a freak. So I think defensive tackle for me is the most important. I think the other positions, I mean, you could use another edge guy, pass rushing, and then for me, the DB class is looking so good that that's
Yeah.
kind of the least amount that I'm most concerned about. So I would probably list them that way. You would also, I will put linebacker up there with defensive tackle, but right now that's looking like a portal situation to me. FSU adding probably multiple guys from the portal, which is not a problem for them. They can get whatever they want as far as any position. So I think probably right now I'd lean towards portal stuff for the linebacker. Just to get ahead, for people who are asking me, I mentioned Jamari Howard. No, his commitment does not affect anybody else. So there you go. It's not going to affect somebody else. I think they still want 2 more guys, and that's before Jamari's committing. So probably once they hit that 2, they'll quit. But like I said, if you get a talent in Bates or Wardell, you're not going to turn those guys down if they want both in. So I think they'd be oversigned if they have to,
Mm.
if he gets to that point. But yeah, I don't think it's going to affect either one of those guys.
Jumping back to the boards, Florida State has 2 2025 commits as of right now, I believe, Michael. So North Carolina Noel wants to ask, what are the top 3 2025 targets? I guess he
Oh
means
man,
players. Yeah, that's kind of
holy hell,
tough.
holy
Putting
hell.
you on the spot there.
Osman Chromo for me would be in that 3. Definitely a guy I would have said Armando Blunt, but he switched classes 2024. Um, Man, I mean, you would love to get a top tier defensive end for me. I can't really pick one. There's not one that I think's like a must. But then, and then in the linebacker position, getting a guy like Zayden Walker. He's a 5-star linebacker. I would even put Jaden Perlot up there. who I've already RPM picked to a flip to FSU. I think those two, I think, would really set you really good for 2025. Those are kind of the three, I guess, if I was picking. I know I kind of jumped around a little bit, but yeah, my main guy for me next year is Osman Chromo. I know somebody asked a question about him,
Yeah.
talking about Lee County. Man, this guy's like, he's not like any running back they have on the roster. He's totally different than it. He's like almost like a mixture of several of them together. He's like power of Trey Benson,
Mm.
catching ability of Toafili and Rodney Hill, which, by the way, telling you guys, I told you guys before about Rodney Hill. I was like, you haven't seen anything yet. Toafili's been awesome, but I'm telling you, when he leaves, by the time he leaves, Rodney Hill's going to be one of the best receiving backs they've had in a very long time. So, but he's kind of a combination of all of them. You don't usually see a guy as physically built like he is, as big, that has the flexibility with the hips or the turn or way he finds the ball and how he tracks it. But he is one of the best receiving backs in the country. He averages like around 185, 210 a game. Just long strider, kind of. You see him and you think he's going to play defensive end when you look at him. Just kind of reminds you when you watch. I'm not saying he's like him, but his size wise, with the size and the way he moves,
Mm.
it's like when I first saw Derrick Henry. That's kind of what I thought when I first saw Derrick. I was like, Derrick, you belong at tight end. This kid's the same way. He's just so massively huge, like
Oof.
6'3", and he just runs like a deer and just so physical. And he's a long strider, like an Eddie George type style running, kind of bow legged, but nobody cares about that. I mean, his talent is speaks for itself. And I love Alvin Henderson too, but this kid, I think, takes you to another level because of the multiple things that he can do, um, like from different positions. Like I said, long strider, you see it there, and he just gets so much speed out of once he gets going. But I just love him as the total package where. I think you can put him in any situation where it's passing or just running between the hashes, and he is just phenomenal. So for me, that's my number one want. If I was wanting somebody for 2025, it's this dude. I mean, he is a freak. And I think he really changes to that running back room even more to an elite level. So I really love Osman. I mean, that's the guy if I was picking one.
Man, I've just been blown away. I've been sitting here watching his highlights as you're talking and describing him. Yeah, he's the real deal.
Yeah, I saw him in
Definitely
person against Colquitt, and
got an interview with him on our channel.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and he ran for like I was texting different people, and I was like, this dude's got like 135 at halftime against Colquitt, and Colquitt's really good. And I was highly impressed. He was not what I envisioned when I first saw him because I had not seen him play in person. I just saw kind of clips and stuff like that, but I was heavily impressed.
Couple of quick chat questions that you can
Okay.
answer, I would say, relatively quickly. Harold wants to know, is the UGA linebacker commit Walker, I believe, that you just mentioned, still reclassifying? Have you heard anything on
I
that?
think he's talking about Jaden Perlot. He's
Oh, yeah, for a while.
2025. He's committed to Georgia. He has not indicated a reclassification, but that doesn't mean he's not. A lot of this stuff he can keep quiet if he wants to, as long as he wants. I have not heard that he's definitively doing it one way or the other, but I've heard it's still under consideration. I think Jaden's keeping a lot of this stuff quiet because of he wants to keep he's kind of to himself. He doesn't want people knowing his business, but I think certainly FSU is heavily in the picture without a doubt. So that's kind of where I stand with that.
Another question on visitors for the Miami game from the 2025 class. Antoine wants to know, will Hilton Stubbs and DJ Pickett be there in attendance?
Yes, DJ will be there. I don't know Hilton. I'm waiting to hear back from him. He's not. He hadn't got. He usually gets back pretty quick, but I'll keep checking to see if Hilton. You know, there's different things that go into this stuff. I mean, a lot of kids tell you like they're going, but then that's when the first week of the playoffs start for some programs. So they don't know if they're playing on a Friday, if they're playing on the Saturday.
Right.
So that's kind of the tricky part. But Hilton has not told me yet. But DJ Pickett, yes, he is on my list to put in there. And just to jump to another question, and I saw that is it Dort or is that Dart Wick or I can't read. My eyes are bad. I'm
Yeah,
52.
Dartwick, I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
My eyes are bad, guys. Yeah, I mean, offensive line, dude. I just kind of expect that every year. So I think Solomon is certainly up there as one of my top guys. I think David Sanders is kind of a wait and see. I think there's so many national league teams, but yeah, Solomon would be pretty high up there, Dart. I mean, I'm not going to lie, but I mean, Ben put me on the spot. The
Yeah, yeah,
Spice
you
Man,
were you were on the spot a little bit there.
the Spice Man put me on the spot, so I had to just throw some names. But don't worry, guys. I'm kind of leads into my segue of I'm gonna actually work on either I get it done for Friday or I'll have it done early in the week. I'm gonna do a five prospects to watch for offense, five prospects to watch for defense. Kind of give you kind of these are guys that I think mutual interest FSU's in the best position for, and that are the ones I'm most keeping an eye on. So I will have that Dart, and spoiler alert, Solomon will probably be on there. So for one of them. So there you go.
Love this question's from Marshall. He's asked us a couple times now. What FSU commit has had the best high school season so far? And
Mm,
this is fun because you actually track that with the stats if
hmm
you're able to get them, and you do a good job of that. So that gives you another chance to promote some of the work on
Yeah.
warchant.com like you do, Mike.
Yeah, I love the rewind. I don't love staying up till 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning doing it, but I love doing it. I love tracking it. It's fun. There's a lot of guys with a lot of great stats, but yeah, I mean, the only one guy that pops in my mind, that's KJ Bolden,
Mm.
every week. I mean, he is, I actually get tingles getting ready to just see what the stat line's going to be from him because his stuff is ridiculous. I actually have to do 4 lines for him almost every week because he's either rushing for a touchdown or he's receiving a touchdown. He's definitely going to have some defensive stats. And then you have a special teams in there sometimes that I think one week he had a receiving touchdown, a rushing touchdown, a pick six, and a return for a touchdown. It's like he had like everything you could
Wow.
possibly think of. So yeah, for me, it would have to be KJ Bolden. I think KJ's stats are tremendous. I think BJ Gibson's had a really good year stat wise. I think he was been very strong. I think Luke's had a really good year as well. As far as the passing department, total touchdowns, and so there's a lot of guys. Armando Blunt would be really high up there. I mean, he's averaging around 2 or 3 sacks a game. So, but for me, I'm going to go with KJ Bolden. That guy is he's like playing Madden and on rookie level. I mean, it's just you're waiting for whatever he's going to put up every week.
He's the all 99 overall player that you create and just max out and make it really
Exactly.
unfair. And then you're playing your friend, and he's like, "Who is this? This
Yeah,
is
you
not
make him
fair."
like a 270-pound receiver or something, and he's just like you can't do anything with it. Yeah, that's KJ every week, but yeah, I'll go KJ. But there's a lot of them, but yeah, Friday Night Rewind. I love it. I mean, I don't think anybody does it. So I just it just cannot. It was kind. I can't take credit for the idea totally. My wife came up with it probably about 6 years ago, and she's like, "Why don't you do something where you track, kind of what they do, and just have a graph or something?" And so there, that's how it originated. So Mrs. L gets all the credit for that. I just threw it together, but yeah, I love it. I'm glad everyone loves it. So that's good.
Jump back over to the boards real quickly. Hadn't heard of this, so I'm interested to get your take. Rural, my Appalachian twang's coming out there when I say rural. Rural, I can't do it. REI. What kind of timeline are we expecting for the 4 to 5 silent commits from the Duke game to go public? Have you heard anything about that, Mike?
I mean, you never know with silent. That's why they call them silence because they're silent. People. I think people read too much into that. Like, yeah, they could indicate it, and you kind of look at it like a silent, but that doesn't mean they're going to publicly announce it. Or, I mean, they could be telling other schools the same thing. So I would keep that in mind, coming off that. But I think there's several that, yeah, I think FSU pop up. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you their names, guys, if they're going to do it. They're coming. But I will certainly, when I do my preview for the Miami weekend, I will give you a strong indication of which guys I'm keeping a very close full eye watch on. But I think if you're on War Chant, and certainly I love when anybody subscribes. So jump on board if you haven't. But if you read my recruiting raps, I think a lot of you pretty much know some of the guys that are likely. I'll just say that, but I will definitely go into more detail about that once we get closer to that Miami game.
We've been largely positive so far on the show, so we gotta slip a little negative question in there. Is there
Okay.
any 2024 commits that you're feeling a little shaky on? They might flip to another school.
Not yet. I mean, I want to tell you guys like, oh yeah, I'm really really concerned about this guy, but there's nobody that like I'm like high alert concerned with. I think early in the year it was kind of I was a little concerned just with BJ Gibson, not because he didn't love FSU, but it's kind of like if they get too many receivers, that might push him away or not that FSU would cool him. FSU loves him. It's just sometimes kids want to be the guy. But I that got lesser and lesser during the year. I think certainly Lawayne McCoy was one early, but I still feel very strong about that one. So I don't think there's any guy that I think would just flip away or go somewhere that I think is a definite. I think all of them are pretty strong with how they feel about FSU at now. I mean, now could that change? Maybe if depending on what additions they get, that could affect somebody. But I haven't heard anything that leads me to believe that there's like a player I'm thinking of that I'm concerned about. At least not right now.
Okay, one more negative question, then we're not doing any more negative questions
Okay,
anymore.
I
This
don't
this is
care.
this would be really bad. So hypothetical here. We've talked a little bit about Jeremiah Smith.
Hmm.
So we'll skip that one and we'll go to this last one. Would a loss to Miami be as catastrophic for our recruiting class as I think? Talk me away from the ledge, Michael.
No, who asked this question? Is it Lamaj?
Lumbago 6, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah, Labago. I got to cheer you up, Labago. By the way, if you're listening to this, dude, you seem really down and panicky. A lot of stuff. No, I don't think it's going to be catastrophic. No, it's not great, but you can't just pin one game on just your whole season of what you've done in the season. Second of all, Lamar, they ain't losing that game. Okay, let me settle you down. When we talk away from the ledge, FSU's going to win that game, in my opinion. But no, I don't think it'd be catastrophic. I think it'd be a bad, like it would hurt your momentum some, but I don't think it would just be catastrophic where every white guy's going to leave because you lost to if you lose to Miami. It's a rivalry game. Kids know this. Now, will it be a positive effect for Miami? Absolutely. But will it be just devastating to FSU? No, because the kids already know what FSU's product is and what their program is. And they understand rivalries happen. Guys, teams get beat, but I don't think it's like catastrophic or the world's going to end or FSU's going to lose all of their commits. I think it would be more of a positive boom for Miami, but I don't think it'd be like devastating for FSU.
You got to be like Noles fan. He comments on every video that we post. 15-0 goal nose. That's the optimism that we need, Michael.
I
I like
mean,
that.
I don't need optimism, but that guy seems like he needs to.
Dedicated.
I need to take them out for a drink or something, cheer them up, or like, dude, we're good. They're good. They're doing really well. Like I cannot explain enough. FSU's momentum is the highest I can remember doing it. Probably even back to the Jimbo years. I mean, it is really high. I cannot explain that. And when you get 2 years straight of this stuff, kids kind of know what your product is. So one game is not going to just devastate them. It'll help Miami, but as Tony just put on there, yeah, we nobody wants anything good for Miami. Who likes those guys? Like but Green's an LA cover or whatever. But uh, FSU's going great. You focus on, and I've said this. My brother calls me every week, and he's like, "What do you think we got to do this week?" I was like, "Dude, there's not a secret potion. It's just stay locked in, execute what the game plan you've done all week in practice, and just stay who you are, and stay with the work that you're bringing." And I could say this no matter what. I've seen FSU and their different times and their sloppiness, but the one thing that they always do is they play hard. Those kids play hard and they go and they've been locked into every game. It drives me crazy when people say, "Well, is this going to be a trap game?" If you have your team locked in, that word doesn't exist. I think trap word was a word that's created by fans to make themselves feel good because they're worried about their team possibly winning. So I think I think Norvell's got them to a level now that trap game's not even in their vocabulary. I think they're locked in each week. It's just about the execution. It's not about if they're ready. So they just got to keep doing what they're doing and ride the wave. Enjoy it, Lamont. Enjoy it. Enjoy the times. Enjoy what product of Norvell bringing this product back to the standard that, to be honest, what they should be, what FSU should be every year. He's brought them back to the standard they're at. So just keep that in mind, guys. But no, everything's going good. I don't mind the negative stuff. It's just let's like bring some principle to the negative. If you're going to bring negative, I don't mind talking about it, but let's at least talk in reality.
We've got a couple more chat questions we're going to get to before we sign off. If you have any more
Okay.
questions, leave us a comment. Let us know. Harold, thank you so much, man. You have been interacting with us all throughout the show. We appreciate you. He brings up a comment from Dart that was talking about defensive end King Joseph. Harold says he seems high on us. Is the interest mutual?
I don't think it's mutual. I think they like him. I think probably Colorado is the most likely destination from what I hear this week. He's visiting there this weekend. I think he loves FSU. I think if FSU pushed, FSU would get him. That's how confident I feel about King. But I don't think that is likely to happen. I'm not getting the sense that the interest is mutual of FSU to that level. Now, could I see something where he commits to Colorado and then FSU maybe when they figure out their numbers of what they're, I mean, you got to remember that you're talking about 4 or 5 spots left. So there's not a lot of room to wiggle room. So you got to see who you're comfortable that you're going to get in this class. And then just, then they can kind of go from that. I think they're in a situation where they can't make a commitment to, that push yet. But he's a guy that I listed as others in my 7 to watch, but I think right now he's not a guy that I think is on the one that they would push for or take at this time, but maybe later. But at this time, I just think probably ends up elsewhere. Like I said, if I had to guess, I'd say Colorado at this stage. But that really just depends on if there's a push, and then we'll kind of just have to wait for that.
Greg is curious about Preston Parker Jr. Any word on Preston?
Yeah, that's so new. It's not a name I've heard around the FSU circles that much. Probably uh, that's one that'll happen later as far as we'll see if there's a push, but I haven't heard anything as far as him being mentioned to me consistently. I don't know a lot about his recruitment. If when I'm told that there isn't much with FSU, I don't really heavily get too involved in it unless I'm helping a kid and just want to get his interests out there of different schools. But Preston's not one that I've heard a lot with FSU.
Uh, this is another good question from Michael. I'm interested in this one. I don't know if you know the answer to this or not. What
Okay.
restaurants do they usually go to when they take recruits on official visits? Do you know that?
Yeah, I have a feeling. I kind of know. I would just say I don't want to give away FSU's
There you
your
go.
secrets, but I'll just say a few of them are in College Town. I'll kind of leave it at that. They're very nice. I've been there, so they're nice and certainly exotic ones and kind of similar to the stories you heard when they would take on the Marie Livingston's really nice steakhouse place. They used to do that a while back. Even for the old folks like me, the Silver Slipper is where they used to take them as a nice, one of the most exotic restaurants in Tallahassee back in the day. So that was a place they would go, but kind of similar to those places. But yeah, I do know, but I'm not going to give away too much of where they take them. That's their business.
Miami game obviously going to be huge. Before we close it out, I'm curious. North Alabama game, is that going to have a big visitor list? What's kind of your expectation for that?
Yeah, I think the North Alabama game, you'll probably have like 12 significant visitors. Nothing really huge. You might have two, probably 3 to 4 that are really, really elite, or are just pretty solid, pretty strong guys. That maybe FSU didn't feel like they would get the amount of time they did individually. They could have them for the Miami game, and then they might just decide to push it to the North Alabama game where they get more personal time. But I do think there's going to be some good ones that will go there. I mean, I said this after the Southern Miss game and the visitors that showed up there. I was like, you're going to the Southern Miss game. It doesn't matter who they're playing. You're going to get some talented prospects that show up. So I do think there will be some I think you'll see. I've already mentioned. I know a 2027 guy that I know it's 2027 guys, but it's a running back. He's really going to be a good one. MJ Banias out of Katy High School in Texas. He will be there for that. And I think there's going to be ones in 2024, 2025 that'll be higher. As far as the Miami game, that speaks for itself. We're already up to I think around 6 5 stars already on that list. In the double digits with top 4-star prospects that are coming. That game's probably going to have like 120 prospects. So I probably won't be able to talk to my family for like 3 weeks. I'll be busy. Me and Matt getting a hold of all these people. But yeah, man, it's a good time if you're a Seminole fan. I think it's a lot of exciting times. It's a lot of exciting things going on with FSU. I for if you're doing anything, I want you. Well, obviously, we want you to subscribe to Warchant. But man, if you're not watching anything, obviously, we want you to hit the like button here. But
Yeah,
also,
absolutely.
that cinematic thing they do every week for FSU is badass. I
Yeah,
mean, it is
it
just
is.
really good, and it kind of shows
How
you.
far have they come? Like, it's
Yeah,
incredible how far their
yeah,
social media team has come. Do you
yeah,
think
and
that
it's
makes a difference in recruiting?
Oh yeah, I know recruits love that. They send it. I know they send it to recruits if they don't see it, and it's just it kind of gives you a background of kind of what goes on, and just just there's certain points that Mike puts out there, like it's like I think he said one week it was like they got good coaches over there, but you're built by storms here. So it's like, and it just gets everyone excited because of what Josh Storms has done with as far as their bodies and how he gets them ready, for each week, and just the want to, each week of staying locked into what you're doing. It's just a really good, feature. But yeah, there's a lot of things going on that's good, guys. That there's a lot of things to be excited about. I'm excited. You guys were in here tonight. I was only expecting 150, and look at you guys,
Wow.
almost 300. So you guys shocked me, but I'm glad we could do this. The Spice Man killed it as usual, and I'm just here just to help you guys out a little bit. But appreciate everyone coming, and like I said, we're just gonna get ready for this big Miami game. But before that, got to take care of business against Pittsburgh. They win that game, they're in the ACC championship, so it's a big deal.
Julian is loving your hard work, man. He says nobody works harder in this recruiting game than our Michael Langston. Keep it up, boss. We appreciate the work. Go Noles. I just wanted to say that. We appreciate you, Michael. I know things are going to get crazy for you, but Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminoles sports source. Michael Langston, wrong way. There we go. He's working hard for you guys, and we appreciate him very much. Appreciate everyone who tuned in here to our live recruiting chat. Make sure you head over to the premium recruiting board and continue the conversation. For Michael Langston, I'm Ben Spicer. Thanks for watching here on Warchant TV.